Welcome to the Town of Perth Committee of the Whole meeting on April 2nd, 2024 at 5:30. This is the sixth meeting of the year. I'm Councillor Barry Smith, and I'm going to be chairing the meeting tonight. I'd like to call on Councillor Bolt for 2.1, the adoption of the agenda, which is a new thing.
I see that. Moved by myself that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole meeting of April the 2nd, 2024 be adopted as presented.
All those in favor? Unanimous. In addressing council, I would ask that if anyone has a pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest and general nature thereof, now would be the time to declare it. And if you only realize it at the time during the agenda, speak up then, please. Councillor Bird.
Thank you, Chair. I hope this is either the last or the penultimate time I have to do this. I have declared potential pecuniary interest in relation to agenda number 6, item number 8.16, item titled Staff Report 2024 CAL 616, Lanark County OPP Detachment Board Budget. For the following reasons, I am employed by the OPP.
Duly noted. And Councillor Bolt.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just looking for it in the agenda. I'd read it earlier, but essentially, I have a pecuniary interest in the presentation and information for discussion or otherwise regarding the Regan Lee proposal for the 32 units, as I live on a street that's going to be directly impacted by the traffic, and I've been advised by council that I should declare an interest.
Thank you. Noted. I would ask on to 5.1, and I would ask Councillor Waterfield to make the motion, please.
I would move that the minutes of the regular Committee of the Whole meeting held March 5th, 2024, and the special Committee of the Whole meeting held on March 12th, 2024 be approved.
All those in favor? Unanimous. On to delegations, but before we start the delegations, something else that's new tonight for the first time. There is a delegations overview, and I'm being asked to read it, which I shall do before the delegations start. The delegation's role is to provide information and not to enter into debate with the council or staff. Delegations may only speak at a meeting regarding the requested topic on the agenda. Delegations are limited to a maximum of 10 minutes, followed by a question period from council. Delegations or any meeting attendees shall not display signs, placards, posters, or applaud, heckle, or engage in any conversation which may be considered disruptive to the meeting. Delegations must direct any questions or responses to questions through the chair. And on to delegations. Tonight we have 3 delegations. And because they're all on the same subject, we're going to proceed through all 3 delegations. And at the end of those, there will be time for questions from council on all of them. So we will start with Tim Holmes and Craig Cunningham. Just remember, you have 5 minutes each, and please speak directly into the microphone. This is being recorded and televised live. And if you don't speak into the mic, the people at home watching will not hear what you're saying.
Hello, I'm Tim Holmes from 57 Arthur Street, and my backyard is next to 63 Halton. I support the affordable housing project, but only if it is a sensible size. I worry that council will allow the scale of the development to exceed the capacity of this site. This may divide existing homeowners and the new renters. Many neighbors, as well as Chip, agree that a 10 to 12 unit building is the right scale. I trust the intentions of Chip, but now others are to develop this problematic site. What if they want a larger size to spread unusually high site costs? Then council can say no, not to affordable housing, but to the suitability of this site. The proposal is unknown, but I have a guideline. This is the common area access and use agreement for my property, dated 2013, co-signed by the mayor of Perth. The town wrote this agreement. Perth required other developers at Perth Works to sign it as a condition of land purchase. On page 2, item 3, the document states, there will be comparable agreements completed with other property owners as the adjacent lands develop. Carebridge should sign on and become a participating owner like the rest of us. I checked the validity of this agreement with a lawyer. Their opinion is that Perth is required to fulfill its terms, even though some of the minor specifics have not happened over the years. The agreement contradicts a potential bad decision by council where it approves a building plan that is not reasonable in scale for this site. On page 10, item 2D, it states, council has accepted in principle the landscape design dated February 2012 by Common Ground. So this agreement accepts in principle that drawing up on the overhead. What on this plan informs the current development? Well, it's not easy to read. Note at the top right, existing trees along the lane are to remain and be protected. Wilson Street residents are very concerned about this regarding shade, privacy, and drainage. Can it be done? Is the developer aware of this note and neighbors' distress? Number 2, at the top center, the parking area shown is located along the new lane that goes from Cockburn to Halton Streets. Parking is only 1 car length perpendicular to the new road. No parking behind existing residences. 3, the rough size, position, and maximum 3-story height of the building is depicted on the plan. So when you see a plan drawing by Carebridge, compare it to this one for compatibility. The town intends to retain ownership of the common green space. It's time to fulfill the common area access and use agreement by updating the terms of use part of it. On page 10, item 2D, I read, once there are a minimum of 10 residential units, the town shall consult with the owners regarding more detailed terms of use document. Any revision shall be presented to and approved by town council. So let's make a better community. Let's collaborate to address common green space issues such as landscaping, maintenance, rules of use. Chip can contribute here. They, along with a counselor and a neighbor committee, can draft a terms of use agreement to present to planning and council for approval. Will a counselor please collaborate on this? Contact me or one of us, come over and visit the site to visualize the context, listen, and explain. Finally, when you consider your vote on the proposal, remember the town should do it right, uphold its commitment to its own idea, the common area agreement. It is the legal template for the development of this neighborhood that others bought into. Let's cooperate with affordable housing, but not exceed the capacity of this site. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mayor, and Town Councilors. My name is Craig Cunningham, and I've lived at Perth Works for about 12 years. Throughout that time, I've witnessed the progress of development in the community with all of its ups and downs, and I'm opposed to any apartment development on Block D. The Canadian Institute of Planners policy on healthy communities planning envisions a future where all communities and cities are planned, designed, and developed and managed to foster vibrant environments and active lifestyles that promote and protect the health of all Canadians, increasing the social and health equity of our communities. The future of Perthworks contradicts this vision. Constrained small lots combined with a loss of practical and usable green space, a loss of privacy and tree cover, a good potential for an increasing stormwater management issues, creating social issues with a high density of residents in the confined area, and creating safety issues with an unsafe laneway appeared to be a setup for failure instead of a healthy community. Please allow me to elaborate. The official plan stipulates that all residential development shall include a generous area devoted to open space, and that is to be utilized as open landscaping and privacy area for occupants. Perthworks was founded on the principle that houses would be constructed on small individual lots, but would benefit from utilizing shared green space. The development of Block D will reduce the shared green space to a narrow sliver that would be not much more than a small buffer. Open space allowances and lot coverage for the apartment building are calculated using the area within Perthworks, not just the area contained within Block D. This will allow for a much larger area of lot coverage for an apartment building and a significant loss of open space. The town's planning policies require that existing mature trees and shrubs need to be retained and parking areas need to be visually buffered. With a new road proposed to extend across the portion of the site that currently supports the primary tree line, this visual buffer will be lost, especially for Wilson Street residents. Considering all houses have small yards, an apartment building and associated parking lot will not fit within the character of the neighborhood and will have an overbearing appearance since it will be located so close to adjacent houses. There is a significant grade difference between the apartment buildings and Wilson Street residences. Any grade changes that occur in Block D, even a 3-story building, for example, has a good potential of having the appearance of a higher 4-story building or much larger, and that also contradicts the intent of the zoning. The town's official plan notes that the soils of Perthworks are thin or absent. As residents will attest, granite bedrock is exposed or is close to the ground surface where the apartment is to be constructed. I do not see how an apartment building can be serviced without a significant removal of the hard granite bedrock using either blasting or raising the apartment significantly above grade, which will create water issues for many residents. And with the space constraints within Perthworks, it is difficult to envision how an effective stormwater management plan can be implemented. A proper stormwater management plan should have been completed when Perthworks was initially approved as a subdivision, not as an afterthought. There are pre-existing drainage issues that have been persisting for at least 12 years and still not have been rectified. Perthworks neighborhood already supports a mix of single detached houses, duplex, and a forthcoming row house. We're definitely doing our part in offering mixed housing types. The average house size in Perthworks is significantly smaller than the provincial average. So we're also doing our part in offering mixed affordable housing. Considering the existing houses plus forthcoming houses on vacant lots and the new apartment building, Perthworks could easily grow from its current 30 or so residents to easily 60 or 70 and potentially much more. There will be extraordinarily little space to afford privacy in backyards for residents who effectively utilize the shared green space from a social perspective. You're more than welcome to visit us on site to experience the confined spaces. The official plan identifies that the town has a residential land supply to support 1,135 lot units. Considering that quantity of land supply, it's hard to envision that there isn't a more suitable location for an apartment building that does not have the same density or space constraints. The OP's policy on intensification require that any new buildings must be compatible with and not impede or constrain adjacent development. This type of residential combination, small lots with constrained open space and an apartment building so close to adjacent houses, is not a suitable approach in Perth. There is an obvious and established style motif and energy efficiencies built into the existing houses of Perthworks. It has not been demonstrated clearly that any new apartment buildings will be constructed in a manner that will maintain the established motif of the existing houses. And by not doing so, it will negatively impact neighboring aesthetics. I have further comments, but I believe that's my time. So I'm happy to forward this after the meeting.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And now I would call on Alfred von Merbach and Jeff Hodgins.
Thank you, Chair, Councilors, staff. My name is Alfred von Merbach. I've been involved in many things in Perth, including Eco Perth, was in the Sunshine Room for many years as the offices for Eco Perth, worked with Jeff and the town planner Eric Cousins at the time on the Perth Works development, and I've been here in Perth or area since 1989. And I'll let Jeff introduce himself and we'll do a bit of a back and forth for the president.
Let's still keep to the 10 minutes. Yeah, so Jeff Hodgins, local architect, similarly involved in lots of things around town over the years. Arrived here a few years after Alfred in 1993. And yeah, the two of us worked side by side with Eric in particular, but many of the town staff at the time that Perth Works was initiated, and we were retained to help come up with a concept to develop a more sustainable demonstration project within this surplus parcel of Perth owned by the town. Another thing that I just would throw on here is that I come to this meeting with a slight unique perspective in that over the last few weeks I have been involved and sat in on meetings of the residents and also meetings of the development team that has the proposal that you have in hand. So although I don't know the terms of the final proposal that went in, I have a fair perspective of kind of both of those conversations.
And I've also had 2 meetings with residents from Perth Works, so I've been hearing their fears and concerns and all that, some of which you have heard. Hopefully you have had some of the documents, the 6-page CMHC document that gave a profile of Perth Works, of this innovative project that the town, took such great leadership and vision with, and also the Federation of Canadian Municipalities on how other towns could replicate that. That was a very important, the process of coming up with Perth Works was very much not, here is a piece of land, what would you do with it? When we talked to developers, they said, that's where we can run into trouble because we have an idea and then town says, oh, I want it to be a little different, and residents want something else and it delays, it gets expensive. If you can give us some sort of vision, not the details, but say, this is what we as a town think this might look like and how it should feel, then they're happy. And so we came up with this process. It involved a number of developers, of architects came in to generate a sort of concept plan on which people could then move forward. And it involved residents in the area, other planners from different municipalities. And it was all about how do you have, not that this is the only form of housing, but it was a form of housing that is underrepresented in Perth, where there's no fences, there's no real sense of yards. Everybody opens into this common area. So what you see driving on the streets is very different from what that community is about. And the sharing that happens there, that was there by intent, by the town's vision, by the common area agreements. So it also incorporated really innovative things of having site-specific zoning, site-specific design criteria that the builders had to abide by, to have energy efficient, to ensure that there was a compact, that we had more density to include walkability and, infill within the town of Perth. So there was all of these sort of interesting ideas that, as far as I know, that it is the town's, and the town's never rescinded that. And then we find about this RFP shows up, and there's no mention of Perthworks. There's no mention of the design criteria that are on the books. There seemed to be no mention of some of the developer incentives that were put in and that other people, were able to avail themselves of. No mention of neighborhood. The common area just showed us, but it wasn't explained in there. And the process was ridiculously short. Nobody was informed. There was no consultation to ask the public. So that's all the residents and myself. I couldn't understand why that wouldn't be included. There's this really innovative, creative project that was showcased that I presented to Toronto for the green municipalities, and it's not there. And of course, there's just fear. All the residents can say, you haven't told us that the proposal isn't even going to ask what's been submitted. I assume won't give an idea of what traffic flow or where parking is or how big it is. You'll have to approve based on the experience of the contractor and hope that and the number of units they've said. So the more units, that's better. It is for affordable housing, but it may not be for the community. And the biggest thing here is you need to get this one right, not for Perthworks, for affordable housing. If you do this wrong, if the scale is imbalanced and the community and the neighbors are up in arms, good luck replicating that. So that's why this process seems so flawed. And I think from my standpoint, I think it's fatally flawed. Like, you should start from scratch with a process like we did the first time with the town and try to figure out what do we actually want? What's the scale? And then go out and ask for that. I even looked at it right now, there's a desperate need in this community for the hospice hub to have a brick and mortar. That would be an absolutely perfect location that opens onto green space. Was any of that ever considered? Or is it just, we have one parcel, how many affordable houses can we get on it? That's what it feels like to residents. That may not be your truth, but maybe there's another, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. So maybe there's another way to try to salvage something out of what to residents and to professionals like Jeff and I feels like a profoundly flawed RFP process with no consultation, no incorporation of the community itself. Just here's a parcel as if it was unrelated to Perthworks. What can you do on it? And somebody's going to come in and airlift who knows what. Of course, that's going to cause anguish and fear.
So, and I wanted to kind of raise a bit of an irony about the process that's going on here. Is that about 3 weeks ago, I sent the same package that you've received to the CHIP group, and then subsequently had a meeting with them the next day, and they were really excited about what they were receiving. They were excited about it because of the social context, because saying that the best possible solution for their affordable housing is for them to be able to integrate into a neighborhood. And here was an area that kind of had, this backdoor community already existing. And they were excited about the environmental requirements and saying that for them, building these houses with extra insulation and various things, it can only be good because the operating costs for them are so much. And they went as far as saying that if this had been part of the RFP, they would have signed on without question, because they were excited about it. And so, I just think that in some ways we have a process-induced conflict here. There's some individual homeowners that may have kind of their own perspective, and it's always difficult to satisfy everybody. But as recent as today, I had an email from the chair of the CHIP group saying that he was committed to an interactive process with the neighbors. But I know from experience, from years of experience with the development community, unless that is built into the process and into the agreement, the inertia of the development process will mean it's shortchanged. Right. So this is just saying we've got the actual development group saying they're okay with committing to communicate and working this out with the residents. But it can't be saying, oh, good, they're going to do it. We're done. It has to be in that agreement, because even the CHIP group, the local group that started this, they may lose control of this once it goes, right? I mean, there's a development involved now, and you know, Carebridge is a good group, but you know, those are the two that really that are going to drive it once it starts to go. Where the local group that's going to raise money from local citizens to make sure this is what Perth wants, they would actually like kind of this interaction with the neighbors to be part of the process.
And it has to be real consultation, not here's our plan, what do you think? It's the plan has to start before anybody's drawing. You need to, but the neighbors have great insights on the site itself and how it works. They can help make a better design. It's not forcing it out. But we're out of time.
I think we're out of time. So thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would now call on Deborah Jackson and Veena Rabichandran to come forward. Go ahead. You have 10 minutes.
I'm Deborah Jackson. I live at 71 Halton Street.
Can you speak directly into the microphone, please?
I'm Deborah Jackson. I live at 71 Halton Street and part of Perthworks. So imagine a place where neighbors visit each other through their back doors, grow and pick flowers and veggies to share, where each new person is welcomed in and introduced to the community, where joys and grief are shared, where all this is made possible through a shared space of intentional porosity and connectivity. This is Perthworks. This is the community I found as a widowed single mother 10 years ago. I recognized in the enchanting project of Perthworks the opportunity to realize a long-time dream of living in an affordable and environmentally sustainable home, a supportive community, and a space that allowed me to be a good steward of the earth. This home, this community has been my refuge and strength, and over time, a deep and abiding love for it has grown in me. I do not want to lose the essence of this unique place, what it was intended to be and what it is in the process of becoming. We as neighbors share a set of core values. We strongly affirm our collective responsibility as Perthites to provide affordable housing and know that has always been a part of the plan for Perthworks. We also recognize it's not enough to simply put a roof over someone's head, wash your hands, and be done with it. There is so much more to long-term social integration and sustainability. Coming in at an appropriate and sympathetic human scale is vital. Not overwhelming current residents in terms of numbers or sheer monolithic proportion should be carefully considered. Our preference is for 10 units or less as presented by CHIP in the recent Inside Ottawa Valley article. We want to be good neighbors. Help us do that by keeping the size of this project manageable on a social level. We have experienced the slow and deliberate evolution of Perthworks as we know it, and we know how much attentive tending it takes to gracefully grow community. We want to be intentionally involved in the continuing design and integration process. We know that community cohesion has historically been a very hard to achieve in affordable housing. And the last thing we want is to create an us and them scenario. Let us show you what integrated community looks like. Come and see the space in person. I don't think a single councillor has been in our space. Spend time with us in our beloved green space. Get to know this community that's ready to help make this a comprehensively successful project. If this project is done right, honoring the original ethos of Perthworks and mindfully engaging and tapping into the collective wisdom of the current residents, the story of Perthworks has the potential to be a long and rich reimagining of how a supportive community can nurture and change lives. If rushed and pushed ahead in an effort to get a trendy pat yourself on the back, check the box project based on a flawed and rushed RFP, then the potential for disaster is enormous and the story does not get a happy ending. Please work with us and allow us to work with you. We have a strong belief that we as neighbors are needed at the table, that we come from a place of deep empathy and self-knowing. We are not resisting this project, but we need to be involved so that this can be a flagship project for this town And we're not willing to settle for any of this kind of tokenizing engagement that's taking place this evening. So I want to ask you, where else in Perth do you see this level of connectivity? Where else do neighbors regularly visit by their back doors, know the names of each other's grandchildren, nurture green space, and celebrate and sing around campfires together? Frankly, nowhere else, and PerthWorks is unique. In conclusion, I offer you 3 takeaways from what I've shared today. Firstly, we in PerthWorks believe in integrative, affordable housing, and we want this project to be a success. We believe that our shared common area is the heart of the supportive community culture we have built over time. We believe all future housing should be required to honor and enhance the existing creative community connections. Secondly, we fear that what we have been building together since the inception of PerthWorks is at risk. We fear that if this project is too large in scale and unskillfully executed, our beautiful community will not be able to integrate new residents successfully. And thirdly, as residents and neighbors in PerthWorks, we are needed at the table. We come from a place of deep empathy and community knowing. You need us to be involved so that this can be the best project this town has ever seen, a model of what good community stewardship of affordable housing looks like.
Thank you very much for giving us this time. My name is Veena Ravichandran, and I'm a resident of 49 Arthur Street. Ours is the latest building by the Algonquin College and the town of Perth before the college course on sustainable housing closed. This actually, our coming to PerthWorks, I owe it to my late husband, Paul Smith, who passed away about 6 months ago. He was a living epitome of sustainability. I mean, he lived and breathed. It was very important for him. I'm a scientist by training, and I've spent my entire life in career in sustainable science, policy, and regulatory affairs. I've worked with the federal government and a number of multilateral agencies outside Canada. So when we got this, heard from existing neighbors about this PerthWorks design, this sounded like music to our ears because my husband and I have a lifelong commitment to living sustainably, not just to show off, but to set an example for the coming generation. And it's the right thing to do. And it was the right values we hold and to build communities. In my career, I found sustainability is a word that's so often used. It's thrown about everywhere. It's also misused. So in its simplest terms, sustainability, in its simplest terms and in practical terms, sustainability is about balancing 3 pillars: economic viability and economic prudence, 1 pillar. The second, environmental conservation, preservation, and sustainability. Third, building social capital and equity. This town of Perth had the vision to look at sustainability in its real sense in all the 3 pillars. And the vision of PerthWorks is a living example of how deeply and how carefully and how widely the town had thought. It's just not a bunch of greenhouses, sustainable. It's a lot more than that. And I'm going to say why. Now, this was born, PerthWorks was born from a collaborative and consultative process and brainstorming with a number of agencies, such as the CMHC, FCM, the town officials and stakeholders. All this is what we have gleaned and understood from interacting with neighbors before we jumped on board. And the model that we have now is really something that would be attractive for replication in small towns. It's versatile enough for different family sizes, different family stages, and with good quality of life, no matter what the age groups are. As much as possible, all these factors have been taken into account. So therefore, it was a bit of a shock, a rather a rude shock, when I saw the RFP for this new building, because we are aware that there is, at least I was aware and all of us were aware, that's going to be a block, a housing block there. It's been in the plan that sold when we bought the project. We had a plan from the town, but the RFP had no mention of the vision, nor was there any, talk of being consistent with the existing concept, the housing, the idea behind Perthworks. So we started talking. I asked if anybody else knew anything, and what I'm presenting today is not only my concern, it's also reflective of the residents at large. Why is this important? I'll give you my example. I live in a 1,200 square foot home. It's a passive house, and average utility bill I pay is $140 a month, and there is no fossil fuel. It's all the entire fuel, heating, electricity, houses, and including our car. That's all, no gas. I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm saying this to thank the town of Perth for its vision and Algonquin College for a vision that people like us in our senior years, this is what affordability is. We were able to build a passive house because you had the zonings and the all the supporting regulations for us to allow us to do that. And the idea was to go net zero, but that is something we want to do in the future. And environmentally, there's low carbon footprints and there's a shared green space. I know my fellow residents have explained this much more than I can. We have individualized gardens, outdoor living, and we share our resources, the garden produce. And one of our residents is a beekeeper, and he makes honey and he distributes it around. He says, it's from your flowers. So that's how the sharing happens here.
Excuse me, Veena, your time has expired.
Okay. May I quickly go to my 4 points?
Very quickly. We've got a long meeting ahead of us.
Sorry. I've got just 4 points to bring to your attention. Please ensure that the original vision of Perthworks is well integrated right from the very beginning. And secondly, that there is a limit on the maximum number of units, perhaps around 10 plus or minus. Please pay attention to the drainage issues. The topology of the block is there's a distinct gradient, and we'd like to make sure, and there's not a lot of soil depth. It's very rocky. Lastly, please pay attention to the environmental and practical impacts of the road connecting Halton and Cockburn. The initial plan that we were given to understand the road did not run through, and there must have been a reason for that. Thank you very much, and thank you for the extension of time.
Council, do you have any questions of any of the delegates? Councillor Waterfield.
Through the chair, a brief comment and clarification and a question, if I may, Chair. There was a comment made by Deborah that I don't think any of the councillors have been to this space. And for those of you that don't know, at one point I owned land in Perthworks, next to the lot to David and Sharon Blair. I am very familiar with the concept and vision of Perthworks, and I've walked the property multiple times. As I listen very carefully to the various presentations, I'm hearing themes of consultation, collaboration, fitting in with the vision and the values of Perthworks. Having listened to all the presentations, and I just want to get clarification, would it be correct, Craig, that you are the only person that is against building in Block D? But if I understand from your presentation, you are not in favor of building on Block D, is that correct? Okay, thank you. That's my only question at this point.
Mayor Brown.
I have one question for each of the delegations. First one of Tim Holmes. I could not interpret the sketch that you put up there because I don't know what was supposed to be houses and where they were, but I have looked at the surveyor's sketch, and the common area is huge. It takes up about half of the total space, so I think that there would be adequate space to accompany everything. So that wasn't really a question, it was statement. The next one is of Alfred. You talked about the process being short. Recalling how that played out, the group from CHIP was quite upset that this might take longer. And there was a county grant coming up. And so they had to go through all of the steps in order to have their, their application ready for the deadline for the county grant. And my next one is, these aren't questions, they're statements. So talking about shared things and wondering how that would happen. It's a nice idea that, you know, friends will be friends and that everybody makes friends with each other, but you know, you can't force friendship. So I had a proposal that the people that already live there would get together with the new tenants and work on doing the landscaping. I would propose to fund the cost of the plants from the mayor's discretionary fund. That's all.
Counselor Bolt.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to just say that I'm overwhelmed by what I'm hearing by the groups that made their presentations, and I respectfully acknowledge their concerns. I have to say that I've lived in this town for almost 30 years, and I honestly didn't realize that that particular project was so carefully planned and thoughtfully planned as it's been demonstrated tonight. As for the RFP, I believe that we felt, and I'm not speaking for everyone in council here, but I just through conversations, I felt that we decided to throw the RFP out there with the hopes that we would get a few different responses and we would see what the community at large through the building community thought about the whole process. And perhaps, just perhaps, we were a little bit hasty in not considering you know, the existing neighborhood because of the work that went into the existing neighborhood that I've learned a lot about here just tonight. I believe that at least I, as a counselor, for myself, believe that we have to be cognizant of how this moves forward. And I, for one, have not walked the property and suggested outside of the last meeting that for those of us on council that haven't or that aren't familiar with the property, that we have maybe a meet together. But whether it be together or on our own, I, for one, definitely plan to meet with some of you people. And I would like to walk the entire parameter of the project. And I think that someone said we got to get it right. And I believe that we do have to get it right. With all the things that have been stated, I, for one, will not support a project that is just thrown together. I also respect the fact that the number of units have to be considered so that it integrates well with what's already there. That's all I have to state.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Byrd.
Thank you, if I may, through the chair. I have no questions at this point. This is a delegation in relation to something that is part of a process. I have heard and made extensive notes of what the residents have said, and I will carry that with me when we get to further discussion in this process, and I will speak at length at that point.
Counselor McPherson. Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Sure, no problem. So I was on council when this idea first came forward. I think I'm the only member of council who was here that was part of that. And it was a pretty exciting vision at the time. And it is a unique neighborhood in the town of Perth. The other interesting thing is I grew up a block from, that used to be the old town public works here. I used to play there as little kids. So I'm not aware of the rocks and the problems with the land. When it was presented to me years ago, it was the homes would be there, but in the back parcel, there would be room for a small apartment building. That's all. I've always carried that in my mind from the day it was there. And I always wondered why the apartment building was never built or whatever happened to it. But I thought, well, that's just the way it goes. No one wanted to build an apartment building there. So I was approached by a little group that was very interested in having the town help them out to build a affordable housing program. And so, of course, we look at all the available land we have in town, and I'll be quite honest with you, they're quite a voiceful group to us. As a lot of groups who come to the town of Perth, when they want stuff, they want it today. They don't want to wait and let us have the time to review it fully. I spoke to the lawyer who's probably spent more time on PerthWorks properties than anybody else in town, and he's provided me with all the documentation, and I provide all that documentation to the town staff. So the town staff have that. There was a bit of a rush by this group because they're so concerned about getting this money from the county. The county, made a comment that they'd have a grant for $1.5 million to support affordable housing, but you basically had to have a piece of property in order to qualify to get in the running for this land. And as a member of county council, I'm hearing this isn't the only group that wants the money from the county. We had a presentation, another group a couple of weeks ago that wants the money from the county. And I hear there's other people coming forward that have other ideas. So it's kind of a, let's get this done tomorrow so I can have the money. But I didn't think council was ever in a real rush with this. We did an RFP out because it's the first step for us to sort of say, what is the genuine interest in anybody building in there to start with? And we go from there. My recollection was it was always going to be a small apartment building, like a 10-unit apartment building. It wasn't going to be a 4 or 5 story apartment building that devastates what's there now. It was supposed to be a building that would fit in and go with the same landscape as with the homes. So I don't know that we have the RFP issue to see what, if there really was an interest from people, because I can tell you as a counselor, there are a lot of phone calls that come to the town hall every day with someone with this great plan. And when you finally tell them we'll put the work together and come and talk to us, it doesn't really happen. And the complaints that Perth is a sole place to build and develop and move forward is probably not on the backs of the counselors. It's on the backs of a lot of developers who have great ideas, but for some reason they just don't come through with their plans. So we had Chip here one night. We had the Carabridge group here. It seemed to me that they were working in tandem together. It was Chip's idea, but Carabridge was going to carry forward with it, and Carabridge was going to manage the program. And I see now that Carabridge has the similar group to act as their developers. So that's fine, but we haven't made any decisions here at council. And I know a lot of you people, and that's my hometown. That's where I live, that area. So even though the developers are in a real rush to get going to try and get this pot of gold from the county, I'm not in a rush. I want to make sure it's done right, because it was this novel idea the town of Perth had, to be a different community and to spread across the country to say, this is what you can do in your small town if you try. And I did actually, I was out for a walk on the weekend, I guess it was a pretty windy day, and I stood in the back field. And I'm trying to figure out to myself, where is the apartment building really going? And I'm looking at everybody's backyards, and it's a communal backyard, right? It's not a single, you don't have fences, it's everybody shares everything. And I'm trying to figure out where the roads go, and there's going to be a lot of work to try and put a building in there. Just because somebody may get the land, there's going to be a lot of money to spend to get this building going. And I don't know if, I'm not always confident that people have this kind of money to actually build it because of the way the land is there. So there's no rush on my part. We did the RFP because we were really requested multiple times by the CHIP group to come on, let's get going, give us an idea, could we even qualify for this? So we did that part of it. And from there, we get the people who are interested. We had the one group. And now, as far as I'm concerned, we move forward with staff and wait for staff reports to see, with all the things that have been brought forward by the information that I've got from the public and the information the lawyer gave me, how does this all work out? So when we figure it out, we'll let you know. And I don't have any problems with public meetings and stuff. And, you just have to know that this other group is very concerned that they're having competitions with other groups that want this $1.5 million. And I don't know really where the county's going on the $1.5 million. We haven't really spoke about it in 2 months of the county. So you'll probably know as soon as I will. Say a few words.
Through the chair, so yes, we received one RFP from the Caribou Group. It was a proposal for two-story, 15-unit apartment building. It's very similar to the both the concept plans that were shown there, same layout, same roadway, same parking area, same common space. So that's the point that we're at now. It is intended to come back to council on April 16th for next steps. Council is certainly going to consider all the comments they've heard tonight, and that will inform next steps in the decision making. But staff will bring it forward 2 weeks from tonight, and then council can decide how fast and how to proceed at that point. I think that's all.
Thank you. Mayor?
Do you have the surveyor's plan handy that you could put it up so that, no, okay.
We're going to vote now on receiving the information from the 3 delegations tonight. All those in favor? Oh, I need a mover. Yeah.
I'll move that.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much to the 3 delegations, the speakers. And I would echo the deputy mayor's words. We're not in a rush and we will do things right. We all feel the same way about it. We'll go on to 7.2.1. Mayor Brown. Hey, Dave. Pardon? Yeah. Shall I get some deal to read it?
Take care.
Thank you. Mayor Brown, are you ready to read this motion? 7.2.1 on the queer connection, Leonard.
Okay. As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth approve flying the Progress Pride flag on the town's community flagpole during Pride Month, June 2024.
Any questions? All those in favor? All those against?
Sorry.
That's unanimous. (8.1) Adoption of the Town of Perth Community Risk Assessment Update. Councillor Bird, do you want to read that?
Thank you, Chair.
And then
Yes.
we'll hear from the fire chief if he wants to say a few words.
Moved by myself, as recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 51XX, being a bylaw to adopt the Town of Perth Community Risk Assessment, be used as guidelines for the fire service overall development and planning moving forward, as presented in Report 2024 Cal-6.1.
Would you like to say a few words?
Did everyone read all 98 pages?
No.
Quite a bit.
All right. I tried to summarize it as neatly as possible in the report so you could gather the gist of it. But essentially, we try to look at real and measurable risks, right, and analyze them so we can sort of shape how we're dealing with all situations and what we're preparing for. Education and enforcement is sort of the biggest thing. The 3 lines of defense, education, enforcement, and then response. We try to be really good at the first 2, so we don't do the third one. But that's the battle. The there's an underlying theme of we need more inspection, we need more prevention, and we're doing the best we can with the staff we have, and we're just going to keep trying to hit those parts as we move forward. So I won't take up too much of your time, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer it.
Councillor Waterfield.
Through the
then
chair to
Councillor
Trevor.
Byrd, and then Mayor Brown.
Through the chair to Trevor. Trevor, I read through your report, which was 90 pages, as you say. I want to zero in on the severe weather event section. And it was rated at 120, which was just one point below very high, and it's currently rated as high. So reading through this and the fact that there's likelihood of more and more severe weather events, I've got two questions. Could you just share with us a little bit more information around when, it depends on the nature of the event, of course, but generally speaking, when there is a severe weather event, what kind of coordination is there between your department, environmental services, and community services? What kind of pulls together during a particular event involving those other two departments?
Okay, through the chair. So, how this works and how things are rated is we take the likelihood and the consequence, and then we figure out the risk from there. So that's sort of how that got a higher rating. It was up there 2 years ago as well, and in our high reform from emergency management, it's also our number one. This risk assessment looks more at how it affects the fire and the fire department specifically, and how we're responding. Whenever there's an issue, especially an environmental one, environmental services, community services, all the different departments are heavily utilized. And communication is one of the biggest keys, and it's all hands on deck, essentially.
And a supplementary question through the chair. If there happened to be a severe weather event, almost one after the other, and with climate change, the likelihood of that happening increases every year, what capacity do we have from a human resources point of view in terms of dealing with multiple severe weather events that happen closely?
Biggest, through the chair, the biggest piece of that is our mutual aid plan. So you'll see right now, currently we have 5 members out in Lanark dealing with the wildfire. There's members from all over the county there dealing with it. They've been there for, I think, 4 hours. This is the 5th day in a row. So this is the first time we've went to help, but other areas have been going and helping at these different fires. Essentially what this tool does is it looks at every year, you relook at it and say, okay, where are we trending now? And what you're seeing is that environmental impacts keep moving scale up. So we have to prepare more. We have to do more education in that area. So that's sort of our focus right now, is making sure that we're ready to deal with these things and trying to educate the public more and more. So I don't see this one going away. I see it being more of a focal point. We did just receive a grant for essentially an emergency command post that can be deployed. It's a pop-up tent that has power ready, first aid availability, and it has many different things, but it's a new tool we have that's ready to be deployed and could be used for other departments in the town. Say emergency or environmental service could use it if they had a water main break and needed some sort of shelter temporarily. Just different ideas we have for it. So that's sort of the ways that we're trying to prepare as we move forward.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Byrd.
Thank you, Chair, if I may, through the chair. You've answered actually most of what my question was going to be in relation to what you've said already, but has there been a significant changing in the ranking system? Have things been bumped? If you can just clarify that for me as far as risk goes.
Yeah, through the chair. So not much has changed in 2 years. I was hoping that the number one risk would come down a little bit with the likelihood side of it. It hasn't, but we have seen hazardous materials move up. So it did move up into more of the caution area, moved up slightly just based on a few responses. But overall, everything's pretty much status quo.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, 2 questions. First is, the report said that there's, older buildings in Perth, and you don't know for sure whether or not they're meet the standard. So in terms of logistics, do you have the right to go into somebody's property without their permission? I know the CBO does, but do you?
Through the chair. So if there's a complaint or a request, we can go on site, or if we feel there's immediate risk. So if we, looked over and saw smoke coming out, we could come on your property. So we do have a little more privilege than even sometimes the police do. But outside of that, if there's, if you're home, if there's no complaint, there's no risk, I have to come up and request.
And my second question is said several times in the report that the RTP needs to be done within a year. Do you, as a group, have the resources to make that happen?
Through the chair, to get to all the level, no. But it's a big ask to get to what you're looking for, and we really have to look at the needs and circumstances of the town of Perth and the tax base we have, and we have to do the best we can with what we have. So we're going to strive to sort of change in certain areas to be stronger in our highest risk areas and do what we can to meet those targets.
Any further questions? We'll call the question. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you.
And on to the next one. Deputy Mayor, Bolton Street paving.
Moved by myself as recommended by committee of the whole, we resolve the council of the town of Perth accept the quotation from Thomas Kavanaugh Construction Limited for the paving of Bolton Street, Wilson Street to Gore Street, with funding to come from the capital reserve in the amount of $43,782.65, plus the harmonized sales tax as presented in report CAO 6.2.
Any questions? Councillor Waterfield.
Through the chair, I guess in this case, it would be to Brian, who I see is online. So I have two questions. First of all, why wasn't this identified for the 2024 budget? And since it's coming out of capital reserve, once this money comes out of the reserve, how close are we in that reserve to the minimum that we want to have in that particular reserve?
The easy answer to, I think, the first question at least, is it wasn't really visible until we started looking at the paving projects that were coming up, and thought this one would be a good fit to maximize efficiencies and hopefully get a lower cost base. So council had deferred it in the past, and it came back up as we were doing the RFP. As far as the capital reserve goes, has really an insignificant impact on the capital reserve relative to the size of the capital projects we're taking on this year. As I've said, in 2025, I expect we're going to be borrowing no matter what happens at this point in time. So,
thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, the amount left as a carryover is approximately $2.1 million. Is it unusual that that's that high?
Do you want me to answer that question when we get to the carry forward schedule approval, or?
Yeah.
Yes, Brian, let's wait until we get to that report.
It's not that high anyway, but yes.
I'm told that carryover is another report.
Yeah.
No, later on. Councillor Bird.
Thank you, if I may, to the chair. Would it be fair to say that, perhaps I'm mistaken, in my memory, Bolton Street has been on the agenda before for this councillor, and it sort of fell off the list? I'm not pointing fingers here, I'm just saying it's sort of got forgotten about. Would that be fair? Because it was previous councils that pushed it back.
Through the chair, yeah. As you recall, when we do a total reconstruction project, we pave the final lift in subsequent year, and I've identified in my report why that is. This delay from 2017 to now was a cost-saving measure of delaying the project and waiting one more year. Unfortunately, it fell off the list. So the efficiency of doing it while we're doing Mary Street and guaranteeing the unit costs for the paving on Mary Street is a good initiative by Kavanaugh's and by us to take advantage of that work in the same work area.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I'll call for a vote on that. I think it's been read. Deputy Mayor, you did read that motion, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Unanimous. And 8.3, the tender award for Tom Street reconstruction. And Councillor Bird, do you want to read that motion, please?
Thank you, Chair. As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 5XXX, being a bylaw to authorize the Mayor and Clerk to sign an agreement with Scott Trudeau Construction Corporation in the amount of $1,628,633.94 plus HST for the reconstruction of approximately 200 meters of Tom Street from Peter Street to John Street in 2024, as presented in report 2024-COW-6.3.
Councillor Bolt, question?
Yes, through the chair, Grant. I'm not familiar with Scott Trudeau Construction. Have we done much business with this company before?
Through the chair, the town of Perth has not done business with this entity before. As part of our due diligence, we did check the references that we were provided. And as part of the obligation of bidding on this contract, they have to secure bid bonding for the total outlay of work. Fortunately, this is well under budget. So inherently, then we have contingency. So no, we have not worked with this constructor before.
A supplemental question, if I could.
Yes.
So thanks, Grant, for that. So that said, when you do check on a company like this, do you check with other townships to see what kind of a job they did? Were they on time? Were there any problems? I'm assuming the answer is yes.
Through the chair, yes, we checked with some of the larger entities, and we want to make sure that the work is parallel to what the work is being requested, i.e. we want to verify they're not a ditch digger when we're doing water and sewer replacement, or they have connections in the industry for subcontractors for concrete and asphalt, and we verify those partnerships that they have in place.
Thank you very much.
Provisional items, is that contingency items? Is that same thing? You have provisional items of 41,000. Is that same thing as contingency?
Provisional items through the chair are items that we may toggle on or off as the project advances.
Okay.
So for instance, say we want to do a retaining wall in paving stone versus a concrete one, that becomes a provisional item once we get into the details that we make a decision yes or no.
Okay, just one more comment. I was at Brock's house there last night doing some work, and the next door neighbor came over and said he really, really, really would appreciate if you could ever get parking back on the street. And I said, I think that's a foregone conclusion, that because we want to make the road a certain speed. But anyway, he just wanted to throw his 2 cents that if there was any way as you go along, there's anyone, he would really appreciate it.
If you don't,
Go ahead.
I'll
Brent.
address that. I have put the diagram for Tom Street on there from the public open house. And we tried as much as we could to fit on parking on that street. And given that the existing street is what I call a rural cross section, there's no defined limits on either side. People were taking liberty of parking on the sidewalk and sort of on the front lawns. So by delineating the street with barrier curbs or a 6-inch face, that really confines people to that corridor. So they will not be parking up on unapproved land. So with 2 3.5 meter travel lanes, there is no ability. And we reviewed it at multiple levels with the other utilities, predominantly Hydro One, of moving all those poles, either going underground or moving them. It was just extremely cost prohibitive. So we decided, and we conveyed to the community through the open house, that we were not able to meet that parking request.
Thank you.
When's the plan to do John Street?
Around the corner, there is no plan to do that in the near future.
Okay, I just kind of wondered, it's such a short street, would we never thought about combining both of them and get it all done at once, just to finish that whole block? But
just through the chair, in general, scoring through it, the municipality has a very smooth surface. It has sidewalks on one side. We relined the water main about 15 years ago, so it's substantial and there's no other issue. So it doesn't meet the measure at the current time for reconstruction.
yeah, I knew it wasn't on the list. I just didn't know. Thanks.
Any further questions? I'll call a vote. All those in favor? That's unanimous. If Mayor Brown has her hand up. Did you have your hand up?
No,
So you're voting against this.
we'll vote in favor of it.
It's on Tom Street,
Mhm.
the repaving.
Yeah, you know.
Okay, that's unanimous. 8.4. And Councillor Waterfield, can you read that motion, please?
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth, one, pass bylaw number 51XX, being a bylaw to regulate occupancy, construction, demolition, and change of use permits for buildings, designated structures, on-site sewage systems, and all other related service systems within the Town of Perth, and two, pass bylaw number 5049-0, being a bylaw to repeal bylaw number 5049, a bylaw to regulate occupancy, construction, demolition, and change of use permits for buildings, designated structures, on-site sewage systems, and all other related service systems within the Town of Perth as presented in report 2024-CAL-6.4.
Any questions? Mayor Brown?
I would ask if there's anything among those listed that's a huge difference that you wanted to bring to our attention.
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, is there, in that list of items, is there anything that's a huge difference than the way it was before that you wanted to bring to our attention?
No, essentially, the purpose of bringing the bylaw forward, the biggest reason is right now, the operational guide on how to calculate a permit fee has always been in the building bylaw. However, the fees themselves are in the fee and schedule bylaw. So staff earlier this year talked about it, and we're going to be moving several fee structures to other bylaws, one of them being building. So that's the main reason. Traditionally, because a building bylaw is part of a living, breathing document of the building code, that's always changing. I always keep a housekeeping amendment copy at my desk, and I mark it up as the year progresses and come across things. So really, it's twofold. Moving the fees over to the building bylaw, so a reader only needs to reference one bylaw to figure out the permit fees, and two, housekeeping changes based on legal advice or changes to provincial legislation, be it the Building Code Act or the Planning Act.
Thank you.
Any further questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Eight point five. Zoning bylaw amendment. Councillor Waterfield. Can you?
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth receive for information the update regarding zoning bylaw amendment application ZBL 10-2023 Maple Leaf Custom Homes, Xander Plan Incorporated, as presented in report 2024 CAL 6.5.
Any questions? Councillor Byrd.
Yeah, if I may, through the chair, just to, for every party involved, whether it's council or the community, this is just for information. Would I be correct in thinking that it's a progress report rather than a final decision on the matter by council?
It's for information, I believe.
Yes, I was saying that it's to put it out there generally.
Yeah. Golso, I see you're on board here. Do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So following the meeting that we had on December 5th, 2023, the applicant provided detailed updates and responses to address the range of comments and concerns that were raised during the meeting and after that. So this report is mainly to summarize the comments and the responses that were provided. I should also mention that in addition to the comments that are summarized in the staff report, this morning we received comments from the resident of 11 Isabella Street, expressing concerns due to dead trees on the subject property, causing property damage and safety hazard to the property at 11 Isabella Street. They are seeking accountability for the property owners for tree removal. But other than that, the staff report summarizes the comments, and it appears that all of the comments and concerns have been addressed since the last committee of the whole meeting. But if there are any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Golsa. Any further questions? I can't take questions from the audience.
So when will this come back to do the public meeting?
We'll come back. Golsa, can you answer?
Can you repeat the question?
When will this come back for the public meeting?
So this is scheduled to be presented to the council for final approval in April or May.
Why are we not voting on it today?
I'm not answering your questions. Nobody's answering your question when you're in the audience. You want to speak, get a delegation and speak, but not like this. Any further questions?
Oh, sorry.
Deputy Mayor.
Not towards the speaker, but what is this? What's the next process? What's the next step? The step is.
Golsa?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So this report was mainly to make sure that there are no further comments or concerns, and just to make sure that everybody is in agreement with the responses that have been provided. So if we don't receive any additional comments or concerns tonight, the plan is to bring forward the updated zoning bylaw, the amended zoning bylaw to the council for approval.
So that's the only thing that's holding up going ahead with the construction?
And then after that, we are going to start processing a site plan control application, which is one of the main steps of the approval, planning approval for this development.
So just one more question, Mr. Chair. So can the zoning approval come at the council meeting? Since if you don't hear any more comments from the public, or does that have to wait for another month?
Through the chair, it could come forward. The public meeting has already been held, so it could come directly to council if it's ready by the department, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor? Pardon?
I have a pecuniary.
Oh, yeah, okay, right. Can I ask for that vote again? I didn't see whose hands were up. That is unanimous, and Councillor Bolt has a pecuniary interest. Report 2024 cow-6.6 zoning bylaw amendment application. Councillor Waterfield, can you move that, please? 8.6.
Mr. Chair, just before I read that, just relating to the, if I may, the answer that our clerk gave to our deputy mayor, it appears that we can have this previous motion brought to council. So my question is, will it come to council coming up as opposed to going to next month? So we can speed this up.
It's ready.
Through the chair, yes, depending on the rest of the department's workload, as you're aware, which is quite high. The plan, and if possible, is to get it on the council agenda 2 weeks from now.
Okay, thank you. Number 8.6 was recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth receive for information the update on zoning bylaw amendment application ZBL 08-2023, John Reagan Lee and Sheila Bear Lee, Zander Plan Incorporated, as presented in report 2024 Cal 6.6.
Questions? All those in question?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. This would go to GOLSA. In reading the report, it states that the traffic study with regards to local road capacity is sufficient to handle forecasted traffic until 2029. If we look at the probability of when this is going to be built, we're probably looking at, I don't know, the year 2025, maybe going on 26. The year 2029 is only 3 years away. And I'm very concerned what happens then all of a sudden in 2029 if we find that traffic is really an issue. So I would like to get a comment on that from GOLSA with regards to the traffic.
Mr. Chair, I am not sure what the standard prediction in any traffic study is and how far away from now they can predict the traffic flow. Maybe Grant knows about the details. If is it possible for Grant to answer this question?
Yeah, through Mr. Chair, I'll just answer that at a high level. Because this development is sequential, there'll be interim measures in place to view that. It's not like the 106 units are going to come all at once.
Okay.
So it'll be sequential, and we'll have reviews with our traffic counters and staff to look at that volume of traffic. We also have in the plan the tertiary entrance for Perthmore as a prospective entrance and exit. So that'll change that whole Perthmore corridor and Isabella Street evaluation.
Just as a follow-up comment, so I'm kind of hearing then it'll be kind of followed up on a regular basis as more units are built and so forth?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Gary, did you read the motion or did you ask the question? You didn't.
I read the motion already,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
We'll vote on it. All those in favor? That's unanimous, except for Councillor Bolt, who's got a pecuniary interest. Eight point seven, bylaw to approve the 2023-26 collective agreement with OPSU. Mayor Brown, can you read that motion, please?
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 51XX, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor, CAO, and the Director of Corporate Services / Treasurer to sign the collective agreement with the Ontario Public Service Employees Union, OPSU, Local 435, and enact the new employment terms for both union and non-union employees for the period June 1, 2023 to May 31st, 2026, as presented in report 2024-CAL-6.7.
Are there any questions? No? All those in favor? Unanimous. Eight point eight, write-off of outstanding provincial offenses accounts receivable deemed uncollectible for the year 2023. Moved by Deputy Mayor Ed McPherson.
As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be resolved the Council of Town of Perth pass bylaw number 5XX, being a bylaw to authorize the write-off of the outstanding provincial offences accounts receivable deemed uncollectible for the year 2023 in the amount of $17,729.89, as recommended by the Provincial Offences Court Manager and prepared in Cal Report 6.8.
Questions or comments? Councillor Bird.
Thank you, through the chair. I understand how this happens. I just always hate to see it, given that, as we will see in other matters later on, and we should already be aware of, the income, as it were, from fines and has dropped in recent years.
I would just like to make a comment on that. Out of the $17,000 written off, 17,729, all but about $300 was due to the death of the individual. The other 300 was because of someone was out of the country. They couldn't find them. Okay.
Through the
ahead.
chair, just when it says that it's being written off, it's kind of an accounting exercise that's required as per policy and provincial legislation. So when it's written off, it just means that active collection ceases and it's flagged in our system. But it can you can start up collection at any point. It's just more an accounting exercise that's required by the province.
8.9, moved by
We didn't-
Deputy Mayor.
We have to vote on it.
Pardon?
So we call the question.
Oh, on the other one?
Yep.
Okay. Back on 8.8, all those in favor of writing off the 17,000, that's unanimous. 8.9, updated strategic plan. Deputy Mayor, can you read that motion?
Supported by myself, is recommended by committee of the whole, be resolved, the council of Town of Perth pass bylaw number 4997-3, being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 4997 as amended to adopt an updated strategic plan 2023 to 2027 as presented in Cal Report 6.9.
Any questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous. 8.10, Deputy Mayor again.
Moved by myself, is recommended by committee of the whole, be resolved, the council of Town of Perth approve the amended committee of the whole meeting chair rotation in the 2024 meeting schedule. The committee of the whole, council and other committees, boards and advisory panels of councils presented in report COW 6.10.
Questions? All those in favor? Unanimous. 8.11, flag policy. Deputy Mayor.
It's recommended by committee of the whole, be resolved, the council of Town of Perth pass bylaw number 4311-3, being a bylaw to amend the flag policy number 4311 is amended to change the duration of time that the Canadian flag on the town hall is flown at half-mast for the death of certain persons, to make 3 administrative changes as presented in Cal Report 6.11.
Madam Mayor.
The part where it says that the flag being at half-mast usually lasts 3 days unless there's a difference in the time between the death and the memorial service. I just note that sometimes the memorial service can be quite distant from when the death happened. How would that be accommodated?
Through the chair, so that's the proposed change. The current policy says fly at half-mast for 3 days. And the proposal is to change it until such time as the funeral or celebration of life is held. So with the recent passing of former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, the flag would be at half-mast until the funeral.
Sorry, and I guess just to further answer the mayor's question, I think if the celebration of life ended up being a month or 2 months later, then we could play that by ear and bring back a proposal to change it at that point, but or make an administrative decision at that point.
All those in favor? Unanimous. 8.12, Councillor Bolt.
Thank you,
Seniors
Mr. Chair. Moved by myself as recommended by the committee of the whole, be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth authorize the director of community services to submit a grant application to the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility's 2024-25 Seniors Community Grant Program to an upset limit of $25,000 as presented in report 2024-COW 6.12.
Questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous, and Deputy Mayor is not in the room to vote. 8.13, award of contract to Perth Roofing for water treatment plant roof replacement. Councillor Bolt, again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Moved by myself as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. Be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth pass bylaw number 51XX, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an agreement with Perth Roofing in the amount of $463,110 plus HST for the replacement of the water treatment plant roof, as well as approve a $10,000 contingency amount as presented in report 2024-COW-6.13.
Questions on that? Councillor Bolt.
I'll wait for Kathy to make it to the mic. So through the chair, Kathy, just a question. Did we not replace a significant portion of the roof of that building not that long ago?
Through the chair, from my recollection, no, that the last time it was done was 15 years ago. So the asset management plan had this roof set to be replaced in 2025. There's some major leakages going on currently. So that's why we brought it forward to just get it completed for 2024.
And just for a point of clarification, if I may, the cost of this new roof replacement is borne strictly by the water and sewer budget?
Yes, through the chair, through the capital reserves of the water and sewer.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
8.14, grant application for Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund. Councillor Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth directs staff to complete an application for the Housing Enabling Water Systems Fund, HUSIF, for the construction of a fifth Sega submerged attached growth reactor cell at the Perth Wastewater Facility, as presented in report 2024 COW-16.14.
Councillor Bolt.
So the question is for Grant. I'll wait for him to come back. So Grant, through the chair, I read the report and I just want clarification. The main reason for this is to cover over 70% of the cost of a fifth cell, even though we at this point don't desperately need a fifth cell. Would that be a correct understanding?
Through the chair, that's the shortest answer. Yeah. Yeah. Three-quarter, 75% funding makes sense on a initiative like this. And at my desk, looking at the pressures that we have for development, getting 75 dollars is a good approach.
Yeah, I'm not questioning that. I guess my follow-up question, if I may, is what's the timeline for, if we get this grant, what's the timeline for completing this fifth cell?
Through the chair, I believe it's two years we have. So we have to start activity in this calendar year, which means planning, budgeting, getting the plan in place. But construction can take place in 25, 26.
Thank you very much.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Unanimous. 8.15, budget carry forward. Brian Burns, and moved by Councillor Byrd.
Thank you, Chair. As recommended by the Committee of the Whole, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Perth approve the carry forward to 2024 of the unspent 2023 project budgets set out in the attached Schedule A, as presented in report 2024-COW-66.15.
Any questions? Madam Mayor.
I will ask my question again at the appropriate place. The carry forward is $2.6 million. Is that unusually high? It seems like a lot of work that wasn't completed.
Actually, in comparison to the two previous years, the carry forward from 22 to 23 was $6.3 million. And the carry forward from 21 to 22 was $2.5 million. So this is right in the normal range of the projects.
Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous. 8.16, Lanark County OPP Detachment Board Budget, moved by Deputy Mayor Ed McPherson.
Moved by myself as recommended by committee of the whole, be resolved the council of town of Perth approve the proposed 2024 draft budget for the 20-member Lanark County OPP Detachment Board and the allocation of costs to the respective municipalities within Lanark County based on a weighted assessment as presented in report 6.16.
Any questions? All those in favor? That's unanimous, and Councillor Bird is out of the room. Go to 9.1, CAO and Director departmental updates. Have any questions of any of the directors on those reports? Madam Mayor.
So one of the things that Michael has been dealing with is the Ontario Land Tribunal, and specifically in relation to Cavan and Perthmore. I wonder if you could update us a little, whatever you can.
Yeah, through the chair on the recognizing that two members have a conflict of interest on the Kaivan one. We as council's aware, there was a letter sent from Kaivan to the tribunal early in March indicating willingness to mediate and to acquiesce on two of the items that we had expressed concern about, including the bridge and affordable housing. The county staff, town staff, and both legal representatives are meeting tomorrow afternoon to go over that, what our response is and what next steps are. And then by the middle of April, we need to have our witness list submitted to the tribunal for moving forward. And I think that's where I'll limit those comments in open session for now. The Perthmore OLT is still in the very early stages. The case management conference, I believe, is being scheduled for the near future. Joanna has sent the draft conditions for that subdivision to the developer. So there's potential that we can still work through resolving that before it goes all the way through the process.
Okay.
I think that's it. Are there any questions from the media?
Gone.
Questions? No.
Just walk by.
Yeah, they've gone. Next meeting date, the regular committee of the whole is Tuesday, May 7th, 2024 at 5:30 p.m. Councillor Gary Waterfield will be the chair. And we now are going to go into closed session. Councillor Waterfield.
Motion for committee of the whole to resolve itself into closed session at 7:09 p.m.
Need to read the rest.
You need to read the rest.
Oh, next page, sorry. That the committee of the whole move into closed session at 7:09 p.m. pursuant to Municipal Act 2001 SO 2001 C25 as amended for the following purpose: personal matter about identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee, section 2392B, A, human resources matter.
Okay. So we need. to
I had a
look at this
conflict
first.
last year, the
Can you
date,
read
the
this
date it
and
was
I'll
on,
go
something
through?
else is happening, but we're free that night, so we're going to support it. A long time ago.
Okay, we're going to rise and report from closed session. Counselor Bolt, can you rise and report from the closed session?
Well, I'll sit and report. Moved by myself that the committee of the whole rise and report from closed session at 8:31 PM.
And in closed session, the committee of the whole approved closed session meeting minutes and received a staff report regarding human resource matter and directed that a recommendation come forward in open session regarding the CAO's employment contract. I think a good rum is in order.
You want me,
Yeah, when I get home.
Yeah. you want me to sign it? Okay.
Is it? Yeah, it is.
Really
mine too.
have to be precise.
Or-
Motion is moved by myself as recommended by the committee of the whole. Be it resolved that the council of the town of Perth receive report 2024-COW 6.1, no, IC.1 to renew the CAO employment contract as a permanent employee, and further that an authorizing bylaw come forward to the April 16th council meeting to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the employment contract as amended.
Okay, I'm going to call a vote on that. All in favor? That's unanimous.
Just clarification on, he will wear the glasses for most meetings from now on. I thought, Susan, just make sure that's in there somewhere.
That's right. That's very important.
Need adjournment then by.
We're done.
Gary, can I ask you to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
That the committee of the whole meeting held on April 2nd, 2024 adjourn at 8:34 PM.